Hey folks, this week we talk about the bombshell of AI in the Linux kernel world. We talk wine and get a hangover. There is a new AI hat from Raspberry Pi, Pipewire, OBS, and Endeavor all have big updates and more. You don't want to miss it, so stay tuned.
Hey everybody, Leo Laporte here with a quick reminder. There are just a few more days to take our annual survey. Your feedback guides the future of TWiT. You can find it on our website, twit.tv/survey26. Take it before the end of the month. Tell us what you think. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks in advance.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This is the Untitled Linux Show, episode 238, recorded Saturday, January the 17th. More time to bake. Hey folks, it is Saturday, and you know what that means. We're going to talk about Linux, open source hardware and software, AI, gaming, all kinds of fun stuff going on. I have with me a couple of wonderful and talented co-hosts. We were talking this week on Floss Weekly. I had Randall back on the show, and we were trying to remember what it is that he used to always say. We concluded that it was wonderful and beautiful, or beautiful and talented, something like that. It was a lot of fun.
A variation on those.
Yeah, variation on those. Probably changed a little bit from week to week. But anyway, it was kind of a throwback episode because we had Randall on as the co-host.
And Ken is wonderful and I'm talented.
Yeah, sure. I'll go with that.
And who's saying this?
Linux fans.
I know who's saying that. A really, really bad text-to-speech engine. They have so much better ones out there now. I don't know if any of them. We'll talk about that at the end of the show. I know what's coming. I know what's coming from Ken. He hasn't been able to stop hitting the button to make it say things during the pre-show even. So it's obviously coming. We've got a show to do today. It's going to be fun. We're talking AI first off. And there was some, I don't know, do we call it a bombshell? Is it a bombshell? It's almost a bombshell. It surprised some people.
Rob's got die for yourself.
Yeah, Rob's got the story. I guess it shouldn't have surprised us, but Rob's got the story. What was the AI bombshell in the open source world this week?
So, as the whole world talks about how to handle AI in open source commits, should we allow it? Should we block it? Should it be part of programming? Where does it even fit? Should it just not be in there at all? The leader of Linux, the open source guru himself, Linus Torvalds, is embracing it, or at the very least, he's using it, not shying away too far from it. So publicly, Linus Torvalds has been pretty blunt about the bigger AI debate swirling around the Linux kernel. When developers floated the idea of documenting or labeling AI slop in kernel contributions, Linus basically waved it off. His argument being the people submitting low quality patches aren't going to self-identify anyway. So documentation turns into pointless posturing, not a solution. And in classic Linus fashion, he summed it up with one line. There is 0 point in talking about AI slop. Now here's where the story gets a little fun. While that debate rages, Linus spent the winter holidays doing what he often does, which is tinkering. Last year, it was literally hardware, a guitar pedal rabbit hole he once described as Lego for grown-ups with a soldering iron. This year, he went back to his software roots, building a new open source project called Audio Noise. Audio Noise is a GPL v2 licensed set of random digital audio effects. Think toy effects, learning projects, the kind of repo you build for curiosity and fun. But buried in the README is the plot twist. Torvalds admits the Python visualizer in Audio Noise was basically written in by vibe coding. He joked that he knows more about analog filters than Python, and quote, that's not saying much. And that he used to do, in the old days, he did the classic Google it and monkey see, monkey do kind of routine. He's copy and paste from, all those places.
Stack
online.
Overflow.
Stack Overflow. There we go. That's what I was trying to think of. But this time, he cut out the middleman and used Google Integrity to generate the audio sample visualizer. He used AI in the way a lot of pragmatic developers do to speed up the parts that's outside of their comfort zone. In a low stakes side project during the holidays break, why not? And I don't think we will ever see Linux or Linus doing Linux vibe coding for the kernel anytime soon. But I take this as a sign that, maybe we shouldn't be so hard against something that can be a helpful tool in the right situation. Even myself, I did a little bit of a side vibe coding myself this week. I made a little thing. Okay, I made is loosely saying it's AI made a little thing for me to pull some warranty information from a computer asset list I had. And what I could have done it spending hours on some little project that it wasn't worth me spending hours for. But the 10 minutes it took me to get to something functional, it's definitely worth it. So, if Linus can vibe code a Python tool for a silly guitar pedal repo, I think the rest of us are allowed to experiment too, a little.
I will tell you the difference. The difference is that Linus knows and is not trying to send in those vibe coded patches to an existing project. Right? That's what projects are seeing that is such a problem. That's what projects I'm in are seeing that's such a problem. Is that people are, they have an idea, and then they fire up their AI agent and they say, okay, build this thing for me, and they really don't even look at the output, just maybe check to see if it works, and so go through cycle after cycle until it finally does the thing that they asked it to do, and then push that in, and then walk away like, dude, I've done a great thing. It's like, no. You just pushed a 5,000 line patch and you don't know what any of it does. And half of it is dumb. And we're not going to wade through it all. That's the problem. And that's not what Torvalds is doing here. He knows a little bit, but he knows better than that.
And besides, it's playing around. If he's going to actually publish it, he's going to take the time to go through it.
It is published on GitHub. It's on GitHub. It's published.
It's published, right? Yeah, no, it's a little tiny project that doesn't matter. It's his project, right? He's pushing out the code. It's his project, and it's not like he's trying to push this into somebody else's repo. And so that makes a big difference. Someone writing slop AI code and trying to push it into the Linux kernel, they're still going to get shot down. Guaranteed. They will. I bet that the kernel has some filtering built into it so that Torvalds himself doesn't even have to look at it. I bet they have some tooling around that. If not, they will need some soon.
Insert your name here.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't disagree with that, but there are a lot of little side projects, and heck, that's the way probably a high majority of big projects today started as. So, you may in the future see a project that started as a simple little AI slop that becomes something much bigger.
Yeah, the real question with that sort of thing is, what do you do for maintenance? Because AI is great at writing at the first pass on things, but so far it's not been very good at doing maintenance on these programs. It's not been very good at making the difficult decisions that, honestly, sometimes us humans have difficulty making. I think that's part of the piece that's missing with a lot of this is, yeah, it's great for slinging some code, but what happens when you get a bug report from a user and it's complicated
somebody has to understand it.
Somebody has to understand it. Yeah, I would agree.
But that's also today. Who knows where we're going to be 10 years from now?
I mean, it's going to get better and better.
5 years from now.
Sure.
But you still want somebody that can understand what that AI is doing.
You just need it 10 years from now. You just need a second AI to understand.
Well, it's funny. It's funny you say that. I've seen several different things where it's like, add our AI to your GitHub project so that we can review incoming pull requests and tell you if they were written by AI. It's like, okay, one, yes, this is something we need. Two, this is sort of a ridiculous place that we've come to in the world.
And three, who's going to pay for all of that?
The one that I've looked at that I sort of thought about actually installing, it was free for an open source project, but if you were doing it for something closed source, you got to pay for it. That was their funding model.
It's not exactly programming, but I've seen discussions and memes about people writing resumes or AI writing resumes for an AI system that's gonna screen it or things like that.
Yeah, well,
AI.
It's been for a while now. One guy has written bullet points and told the AI to turn it into prose, and the AI on the other side turns it from prose back into bullet points. That's happened for a while now. All right, so let's say that you're intrigued by this AI thing. Maybe you actually know what you're doing. You want to be able to run and play with AI, but you want to do it locally, and you don't want to use your GPU. What is a fella to do? Well, there is a new player, not really a new player, but a new option in town. Raspberry Pi has released the AI Hat Plus 2, and it's got some really intriguing things on it. With it'll do. It is based on the Hilo, I think, 10H neural network accelerator. It is 40 TOPS of int4 performance. And then it has an additional, I don't remember, several TOPS of int8, I think is the way that went. And so it's almost like it's got two separate neural processing cores. It's also got onboard RAM. It's got 8 gigs of dedicated onboard memory. And the idea is that you can actually load your model into that, and it will do the inference on the card itself without having to use your Raspberry Pi memory, because that was one of the things that they ran into with the previous AI hat, is that people were just running out of memory space and not able to do some of the things that they wanted to do with it. There is a group of supported models, DeepSeek R1 Distill, Llama 3.2, Qwen 2, Qwen 2.5 Instruct, Qwen 2.5 Coder, and they say more is coming. It's an interesting little card. I don't have one. I've not played with it myself. But I imagine that for certain things, this is going to be really interesting. That there's a demo about running a kiosk, like a self-check at a grocery store. And I believe in the demo, someone was just moving items across and, overhead camera running on the Raspberry Pi. And so it was dedicating like part of the AI chip to identifying items. And then it was doing something else with the other half of the AI chip. So like some interesting capabilities here. There is also a review of this thing by Jeff Geerling. He did have one in hand, and his opinions on it was a bit mixed, actually. So essentially saying that, yes, it's cool that you get a couple of extra things. It'll do things that the original one wouldn't, but it's still not very useful. And I'm going to say that I think this is one of those products that's going to need a few more months to bake. The Pi needs a few more months to bake before it, really becomes useful for things. And there will likely be some sort of breakthrough use case, whether it be a locally hosted natural language sort of add-on to Home Assistant, let's say, or maybe one of the open source video recorders like ZoneMinder, Frigate, I think is the other one. They may write some code that will let you use this to say, classify what the cameras see and give you a end of day description of what it was. Maybe you can run that on something like this. So all that to say that I agree with Jeff in that it's probably not super useful right now, but it gives the community a set of tools that we didn't have previously. And I'm just real interested to see what open source projects do with those tools. And I suppose closed source projects too. There's nothing inherently open source about the Pi. Like you can run whatever you want to on it, obviously. But I'm interested to see what happens with it. I think people will do some fascinating things with this.
So you talked with Jeff about it before the show?
I watched his YouTube video, and we've got that linked in the show notes.
That Jeff.
Yeah, Jeff Geerling. Not our Jeff, the other Jeff. Had you guys seen this?
I didn't see that story. It was on my list. I thought I'd wait and see if one of you guys picked it up. But yeah,
I glanced through it, and I'm going, that sounds interesting. Do I want to get that or an ebook reader that I've been looking at?
We know the answer to that one. Yeah, I don't know. I may pick one up just to have it to play with it, see what I can do.
Yeah, I'd be curious what.
Along with another Raspberry Pi 5?
Of course. And the hat to be able to run an NVMe on it, another NVMe to go with it.
I'd be curious the use cases of that on a Pi as opposed to someone with a low end PC or something like that. You know, how the projects could compare. You know, what kind of use cases they could find difference.
And it probably worked better than using an old Lenovo ThinkPad from 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
But low power AI. There's one of the complaints right there. They say it how much it costs electricity and all that stuff.
Yeah,
Pi can do it.
How many of those would you need in a data center, though?
Oh my goodness, a bunch. But that's sort of the idea. Is the whole idea of the Pi AI hat is it's like running AI without the data center. So this would make sense either on premises or in the home. Like on the edge or in the home would be the two places this would really make sense. And it's kind of a toolkit to play with that.
And more likely you'd find people that got it would already be in the home.
Yeah. All right. We have got, we're going to let Ken talk about Pipewire. But first, quick announcement. We'll be right back.
Well, Jonathan, as you said, I'm going to be talking about an article from 9to5Linux that's about another update to my favorite open source server for handling audio and video streams and hardware on Linux systems. I am talking, of course, about Pipewire, and this time version 1.4.10, the latest bug fix release in the Pipewire 1.4 series. This release backports filter graph channel support to make Pipewire adopt better to the number of channels of the stream, and backports the timer queue from Pipewire 1.5. It also limits resampler phases to avoid crashes, adds support for handling some dbus errors better instead of crashing, and implements support for more channel downmix positions. Pipewire 1.4.10 also cleans up timed out stream on the Pulse server, avoids a mem copy in the convolver, adds a message to force mono mixdown in the Pulse server, and avoids scaling overflow in the clock for the GStreamer multimedia framework, along with other small fixes and improvements. I'm going to recommend reading the article linked in our show notes, since I have only touched on the highlights.
Yeah, need to see things continue on in Pipewire. Some of these things look pretty interesting. The ability to make a source and a sink have the same name, like that seems like an obviously good idea on one hand and a terrible idea at the same time.
Well, yes and no.
Right. Exactly this.
As long as you can add to it at the end a .source.sync.
Mm-hmm. Now, this is a maintenance release for 1.4. There's already a 1.5 out there, isn't there?
That's actually, think of it as an RC for 1.6.
Okay. The Pipewire does the even odd numbering thing where 1.4 is the stable release, 1.5 is their dev series, and 1.6 will be stable. Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm looking forward to seeing 1.6 come out.
Yeah. sure all kinds of neat tools.
Question is, will it be out in time for Ubuntu 2604 or some of the LTS
No.
releases that will be coming out this year?
Hard to say. And the LTS releases, they tend to be a little conservative on what all they include, so they may stick with the 1.4 anyways. All right. Rob, do you have a hangover? Did you enjoy a little too much wine over the break?
A little too much wine 11 will give me a hangover 11. So, wine fans got their yearly big drop, and it's a good one. So, the wine project leader, Alexandra Juilliard, said the plan was to ship Wine 11 stable on January 13th. And right on schedule. What day is it today? Okay, well, it's a few days ago. Right on schedule, Wine 11 landed on January 13th. So if you use Linux and run Windows apps or games, this release is basically a greatest hits album of things getting less painful. The headline feature is NT-Sync, not to be confused with that boy band NSYNC. It features NT-Sync support, but with the catch, it's meant to shine on newer Linux kernels, 6.14 or newer, where the NT-Sync module can better emulate Windows NT synchronization primitives, which translates into fewer bottlenecks, less overhead, and potentially better performance in demanding games and apps. The other big milestone is the new WoW 64, or Windows on Windows 64, I believe that stands for, architecture, being considered fully supported and feature complete, including 16-bit app support in their newer WoW 64 mode. And that's a big, quote, "we finally finished the migration" moment for the project. And then it's just a bunch of other wins going on, such as exclusive full screen, a more capable Wayland driver with clipboard and input improvements, better Vulkan support, including newer APIs and Win32 oriented extensions, and even hardware H.264 decoding through D3, D11 using Vulkan video, plus ongoing joystick and gamepad handling improvements. And because wine isn't just wine, it's the foundation that eventually feeds into Valve's Proton, the great gaming thing that has been a huge part of why Linux gaming has been so successful and such a huge upswing over the last couple of years. Now the bonus of this is the hangover. After you have a great wine, right afterwards you get the hangover. So for ARM fans, Hangover 11.0 dropped right after Wine 11, right where you'd expect it. Hangover is basically Wine, but for ARM 64. By pairing Wine with FexEmu or Box 64, Windows apps and games can run on native ARM 64 Linux systems. And some of the notable things is QEmu support is gone from there because Fex and Box 64 are just simply better tools for the job. The project is leaning into the better tools and slimming down to roughly 10 patches on top of upstream Swime. It also adds more pre-built packages for distros like Ubuntu 25.10 and Debian 13. So, Wine 11 keeps making Linux Windows compatibility better, and Hangover 11 is a reminder that the ARM 64 future is coming. Will this be the year of Linux gaming on ARM? Because if it just works on ARM, that's that's when it really gets interesting. And we already know Valve is coming out with some interesting ARM devices this year. So all this is I think that's all gonna come together to be a very interesting year.
Yeah, so the new WoW 64 is super interesting. We've talked about this in the past, where Linux distros are getting rid of multi-lib support. So that's essentially where you have a whole bunch of 32-bit libraries installed side by side with your 64-bit. And we've asked ourselves before, it's like, well, what happens to gaming? Well, under Wine, you now no longer need the 32-bit libraries on the Linux side. It just works. And they've got the transition layer, the smarts built into those underneath the hood libraries that come with Wine.
All right, that has been a major argument in the past when distros were going to drop all their 32-bit libraries, and then pretty much, I think Steam, or at least Steam supporters, made a big fuss about it when they kind of pulled back on that at the time. So now it's not going to be as much of a issue in the future, except for Ted's computers.
That Valve's going to be framing Wine.
I mean, they already are. It's an interesting pun. Another interesting thing about this is you've actually got a lot of old Linux releases that were 32-bit. A lot of not very old Linux releases were 32-bit only. And so those would still need multi-lib. It's interesting that once again, Windows is the long-term solution for writing a game and being able to play it on Linux. The games that were written for Windows play better now than a 10-year-old or 15-year-old game that was actually ported to Linux. It's sort of bitterly hilarious. I don't know how I feel about that, actually.
Linux is a place for legacy Windows games. I think that's what you're trying to say.
Especially since, I guess one way to put it is lately Windows has been putting its foot in its mouth.
Well, I mean, that's been going on for a long time.
Lately, for the past 30 years? More? I don't know.
Something like that.
40?
Well, at least especially with the latest version.
Yeah, well, I mean, they wanted to rush and put AI into it so bad that they made it creepy. That's the thing that I think will really get them.
Many could argue that's not the worst thing they've done. I mean, do you not remember Windows 8?
I'm trying not to.
No, I am still, we talked about this, we won't go into it in depth, but I'm still quite convinced that making an operating system creepy is far worse than making it buggy or broken or annoying. I think creepy is the worst thing that they could have done.
Because look how many people put up with buggy or broken for decades.
Indeed. On all kinds of places. All right, so we've got an interesting story here for the home labbers, for the budding sysadmins. I'm going to talk about something really cool at Let's Encrypt right after this. All right, so let's encrypt. It's the service that's really changed the way SSL certs works. And they're changing the game once again. So SSL, I'm sure everybody knows, but it lets you take a domain name, like a DNS name, and get a certificate for it. That one proves that you are indeed the owner of the domain, but it also is used to encrypt the traffic people send to and from it. It's essentially what you need to be able to have HTTPS instead of just HTTP connections. At least connections that a browser will validate and give you a green. I don't even think it's green anymore. I think it's just by default these days, and you get like a red X if it's HTTP only, or a bad certificate. It won't even let you load it. Regardless, this has been for domain names for the longest time. And I have a few times wondered, well, what if you just have an IP address? Can you do anything with that? Well, turns out that yes, you can indeed do SSL certificates, HTTPS certificates for IP addresses. And Let's Encrypt now supports those for 6 days. So there's a bit of a wrinkle here. If you get one of these IP address certificates from Let's Encrypt, that certificate has a lifetime of 6 days. It is still free, but very, very rapid. Does not last long at all. Now, if you have Let's Encrypt set up, you should have it set up to be automated. Run, throw it in cron tab, run the job once a night, and it should just take care of things. So this really shouldn't be anything different. But 6 days is pretty fast. And of course, they're doing that because IP addresses can change, particularly if you're on a dynamic IP, like on your home ISP, you might be. But it's very cool. January 15th. So by the time you hear the show, in fact, by the time we're doing this show, they are available and they last for 160 hours. I'm going to have to mess with this. I'm going to have to try this out. I've not yet. But I do occasionally want to be able to do something on just an IP address. Be able to just throw something up and test it without having to get a domain name for it. So pretty cool. Pretty cool stuff.
This is the first I heard of this, but I could definitely see some use cases. There are times when you have some little home server project or some little project that you want to be able to access anywhere in the world, but or in a region or whatever, but outside of your home, maybe bound a VPN. But one problem is as soon as you register a domain, it kind of tells the world, hey, it's right here. And it makes you a target, so if you're just doing a little project, but you want to have that HTTPS, using that per the IP address sounds like a great solution for that to help keep it private. Because I imagine it doesn't, I don't know. I guess I don't know if that would get published in some system somewhere that would be publicly accessible that they could scrape or not. But I guess
I'm not sure. That's an interesting question. Whether there is a list of all of the Let's Encrypt certificates, there might be out there somewhere.
Yeah. And I know they could still find you by scanning all the subnets, but it's still not as quick.
Right. Which does happen. Happens more than you think. A couple of people out there did some work. Robert Graham being one of them, and put some software together that can actually scan the entire IPv4 internet pretty quick.
So could you potentially use this for the IP address 127.0.0.1?
No. So this is only going to be publicly routable IPs. So no local IP, no 192.168s, no 10 dots, no 127 dots. All of those that are special.
Multiple reasons. Because, one, when you do a certificate registration, you have to have communication to prove that that's your IP. And
you have to prove that you control the IP address. Yeah,
it has to be unique, which public or private IPs just aren't unique. You can't say you get a certificate and you get a certificate, and then it just kind of ruins the whole point of having a certificate.
Yeah.
So you couldn't use it to as a certificate for your VMs.
No, well, unless you put them on the if you gave them full public IP addresses, you could. I will tell you, it's an interesting question because there is a way to do that. It's kind of a pain, but it is possible. And that is you can stack multiple domain names on the same IP address. So you put multiple domain names on your external IP. You let Let's Encrypt do the process to renew those. And then on your internal network, you can add that to your hosts file and remap those domain names to local IP addresses and reuse those certificates. That is about the only way I know of to do HTTPS in a way that a browser will respect it inside your network for those local only IP addresses.
Yeah, I know of some places that have private resources, a server that's only internal, and they open up to the public roughly every 90 days to Let's Encrypt renew it, just so it has the HTTPS internally.
Yeah, that makes sense. I say that. I guess the other way that you could handle that, you could sign it. You could become your own certificate authority. You could sign them yourself and then import your sort of root key into your browser. That is possible to do too.
I think there is also now a way. I'm pretty sure. I think I might actually be doing it. I don't know. I set stuff up and I forget how I did it because it's so long ago. But I think one of the ways to authenticate Let's Encrypt is through DNS only. And I think with that setup, you don't have to have that port 80 open. I'm pretty sure I have that on a server.
Because you can push a like DNS text update. Yeah, I think that's correct. Which is fairly useful to be able to do that. Yeah, iLag points out you can, welcome back, iLag, by the way. Glad to have you in the audience again. You can add your company to the trusted authorities. Yeah, so you can sign your own, essentially become your own certificate authority. I'm not sure which would be more of a pain, becoming your own certificate authority or mapping multiple domain names and then trying to use those certificates internally. Both of those sound terrible. We need an easier way to do this.
They probably both have the same pain level.
Probably, just in different ways. So you want to make sure and do both of those so that you have that amount of pain evened out. All right. So what is next? OBS. Ken, there's an OBS update. I got real excited about this, and then they didn't do any of the things that I've been waiting for. So now I'm less excited about it. What is new in 32.1?
Well, it's actually not 32.1 yet, but 9to5 Linux also wrote about the release of a powerful, open source, cross-platform, and free software for video recording and live streaming, which is now entering public beta testing. I am talking about OBS Studio 32.1.0 Beta 1. Mm-hmm. Now, it promises several new features, including WebRTC simulcast support, a new ad source dialog, and a new audio mixer. Now, OBS Studio 32.1.0 Beta 1 also fixed an issue with Pipewire when capturing a device that does not require a frame rate, addressed an issue where an NVIDIA blur and background blur could have banding or look splotchy, and fixed an issue where video scaling could be incorrect in multi-video encoder scenarios. Now, as always, check out the article for more details because I just wanted to touch on the highlights.
Yeah, and so I looked into, let's see, there was one of these that sounded real interesting. I looked into it. It was the multicast,
the multi-video encoding scenarios for video scaling.
No, not that one. Multicast RTMP, I believe, is another one I saw on a different WebRTC simulcast. That's what it's called. Yeah. I looked into that, and it's like, what are they doing here? Is that letting you stream WebRTC to multiple endpoints? No, specifically that is you're streaming WebRTC with multiple levels of detail. And so you've got like one stream that is your full quality, and then you've got a second stream in there that is a lower quality, and a third stream maybe that's even lower quality, lower bandwidth for each of those. And that is what the WebRTC simulcast is, which, for certain use cases, I'm sure that's useful, but not any of the things that I'm doing with OBS.
Multiple streams would be nice.
And there are people working on that. I was hoping it was. And then it was work in that realm, but no, not yet.
So then it could be mixed somewhere else,
or so that you can run instead of doing something like a virtual camera. One of the things that people are working on is the ability to shuffle video and audio from one OBS instance directly out to another, and that's going to be very interesting for recording things like this. We could just all have OBS running and it could connect us. We'd have really low latency audio and video between ourselves. But not yet. It's not there yet.
Yeah, and then have the OBS running on a media server, say, that would actually record everything.
I mean, potentially, yeah. Yeah, you could potentially do it that way. Lots of options once all of these things finally get fully baked and working.
Yeah.
All right. Do we want to talk about Budgie?
No.
All right, Ken, you just stay silent for this one, and I'll talk about it. I'll let Jonathan respond, but you can't say anything.
Rob and I will talk about, not Jeff. Jeff's not here. Jeff's not going to talk about it either. Rob and I will talk about Budgie, but we'll do it right after this.
So the Budgie desktop environment just hit an important milestone. And I don't think enough people are treating it like the big deal that it is. So Budgie 10.10 is officially out, and the headline isn't a new theme or new applet. this release is Budgie's "We Did It" moment, with an official migration from X11 to Wayland being complete.
I knew it, Rob. See, we talked about this last week, and my comment was, Rob would want to talk about this, but he's not here, so I'm gonna do it. We spooked you, man. It's fine. Continue on. Sorry to interrupt. Don't want to.
I wish I would have caught last week's to know what I'm overlapping on air, but it's kind of a landmark release, and I'm the Wayland guy here. I mean, we all love Wayland, but I'm the guy who has to talk about it because it's a big deal, and this frees them up to focus on what's coming next with Budgie 11. Did you talk about Budgie 11 at all?
No, we did not. That one you can talk about.
Budgie 10.10, you may have talked about that. It was supposed to arrive back Q1 of 2025, but as their first Wayland only release. But it seems to be, it's a little bit behind, but still years ahead of what Mint is doing with Cinnamon and Wayland. The facts that are that Wayland is no longer the future, guys. It's the present, and if a desktop environment is still stuck in, someday we'll get there. That's kind of a problem for me, especially when the rest of the ecosystem has moved on. Now, my spicy take on this, I think Budgie should be the lightweight desktop choice for modern desktops, and I think Linux Mint should seriously considering offering Budgie as a first-class option. Maybe even instead of their Cinnamon, for people who, they want something lighter, cleaner, and more modern, and still meets that Windows look-like style that they're kind of aiming for right now with Cinnamon. Budgie has all the things that people seem to love about Cinnamon. It's lightweight like Cinnamon, has that Windows look and feel like default Cinnamon. Not my favorite design paradigm, but some Windows users are more comfortable with that look and feel, and that's fine, really. I don't want to use that design. I'm going to edit it. But anyway, meanwhile, you got Cinnamon. Look, I get it. People love Cinnamon, Linux Mint. It's been a great thing for new Linux users. I mean, it's just been a huge boom lately. And it's great if you don't dig in too far under the hood, but because Cinnamon is a very sleek desktop. It works extremely well, but you still have Wayland as the elephant in the room. While most Main Street desktops have had Wayland stable for a while and, already going all in on Wayland, Cinnamon is only at the beginning of, it's experimental. We're working on it. We'll get there eventually. And work has hinted that there is a much longer runway to go still for Cinnamon before it's ready and stable for them. I'm not predicting it's going to be this year. I don't think I said that. Maybe I should have predicted that. But for a desktop to be that far behind on Wayland in 2026, that's an issue for me. Sure, they will catch up at some point, but then the next big thing will be out, and they will be years behind on that next big thing. While the Budgie team isn't just stopping at we move to Wayland, they're already laying out the Budgie 11 groundwork, where Budgie 11 is going to be Qt6 based desktop, which is like KDE Plasma. I believe that's Qt. And it's going to be more modular, and likely they're going to be leveraging some of the KDE frameworks for shared libraries and plumbing. So there's a bonus for KDE people who want something maybe a little lighter. In other words, Budgie plans to keep moving towards a more modern toolkit, cleaner architecture, more flexibility for users and distro integrators, while others seem to be stuck in the past. So Budgie 10.10 is it's the we made it to Wayland release that I guess you already talked about last week. But Budgie 11 is we're redesigning this to last release that's coming up. And if Mint wants a lightweight desktop option that doesn't feel stuck in the past like their current DE options, and still feels familiar to Windows users on day one, I'm just saying Budgie's there.
Indeed. It's a fun. I've never run it, but it looks like a fun desktop, a fun option.
I've tried it. It really fits that paradigm of like Cinnamon and Mate and that.
And KDE.
I mean,
it's in the same.
It's
in that same family. Yeah.
It uses the same toolkits and stuff as KDE, but doesn't have a feel at all. KDE is kind of like that full blown. Here's all the awesome stuff and whatever to it. Where here you got. If you cut down KDE to its basic, if you modify KDE to its most basic desktops, you could make it probably. You could make them all to be just like each other. So
for the most part, yeah. Yes, indeed.
KDE equals GNOME equals Budgie equals Endeavor OS.
I don't know that I would go that far. That's a little too far. That's a bridge too far, my friend. All right, let's talk about Fedora. Actually, little chat about Fedora. I was chattering in the chat room behind the scenes that my Framework 16 is running Fedora, and we are happy, having a good time with Fedora on the framework. No particular problems there. And I came across a story this week that Fedora first off has a Games Lab spin. How many knew that? And secondly, they are moving it from XFCE to KDE Plasma. Maybe for exactly the reasons that Rob was just talking about. XFCE is a little behind on some things. But first off, let's talk about Fedora Games Lab. Now, this is not the spin that you would choose to play AAA games. This is not the spin that you want to choose to play, Crysis or Doom Eternal or any of those more modern. I know neither of those are actually really, really modern games, but you know what I mean. You're not playing your modern AAA games on this. Is not what it's about. This is not intended to run Steam on it. That's not the sort of thing we're looking to do. This is basically the place to find and get pre-installed open source games is really what it's all about. And so, your Tux cart, probably a bunch of emulators, because most of the emulators themselves are open source. There are first-person shooters like Tremulous and multiple others. There's some turn-based strategy games like Zero AD. There are actually a lot of really high quality open source games out there. And so the Fedora Games Lab is all about having a distro, a spin of Fedora that pre-installs a bunch of those for you and just lets you play. That's what it's all about. And the folks behind it are looking to modernize that spin. And well, the way to do that for Fedora 44 is to bake it on top of a KDE Plasma. Existing users will be able to continue using the XFCE desktop environment if they want to, but with Fedora 44, the new default install of Fedora Games Lab will be on KDE. And it's an interesting idea. I've never tried this spin, and I think there's probably a way to do a group install. I haven't looked, but I bet there's just a group install games inside of Fedora to get all of these packages if you really want to. But maybe setting up a computer for the kids or for going away on the weekend, what have you, might be something interesting to look at.
Yep. Sounds like it's going to be something that you'd want to put on a Raspberry Pi.
Yeah, I bet there is a Raspberry Pi spin. And Fedora, I don't know about the Pi 5, but I know previous versions of the Pi, Fedora has gotten to the point where it works pretty well on those. Yeah, probably worth thinking about. All right, Ken, you've got another OS update. What is up with Endeavor?
Well, this week, Liniax's Bobby Borisov and 9to5 Linux's Marcus Nestor wrote about the latest stable excuse me, snapshot of the Arch Linux-based distro EndeavourOS Ganymede Neo. It is shipping with updated core components, including Linux kernel 6.18, Calamares 26.01, Firefox 146, Mesa 25.3, Xorg Server 21.1.21, and NVIDIA Utilities version 590.48. Now, Plasma Desktop specific installation improvements include the Qt6 virtual keyboard, replacing the Mallet virtual keyboard for SDDM, and other improvements for other desktops. Now, EndeavourOS Ganymede Neo also brings a significant change in NVIDIA driver handling. In response to upstream developments, EndeavourOS has switched its proprietary NVIDIA option to use NVIDIA Open. For more details, check out the show notes and maybe even go play with it.
Yeah, cool. Have any of us ever run? I've never run EndeavourOS. Was that one of the ones you tried, Rob?
I have tried it out before. It's when I went to Arch, I did usually, or I kind of tested it very briefly. And one of my use cases, so EndeavourOS, it's Arch based, but very simple to set up. When I had an NVIDIA card, I could not get, what was it? Pac-Man install or -S, I guess, NVIDIA. Every time I try to install NVIDIA on my Arch, it wouldn't boot up afterwards. So then I tried EndeavourOS, and they have a really nice, at least they did at the time, a really nice system to just check a box and install NVIDIA, and it worked. So I'm like, how is it doing it? Why is it working on here? So basically I dug into EndeavourOS to see how they did it, and they were installing as a DKMS. So once I figured that out, I went back to Arch, installed it as DKMS, and it worked fine. And then I got rid of my NVIDIA card and bought AMD, and just never looked back after that. But
there you go.
That's my life story.
Your life
Arch.
story in a nutshell.
When you have problems with NVIDIA, change the hardware.
Yeah.
Man.
I mean, after I got it to work, that's when I changed the hardware. I mean, I had it working. I'm like, but this is dumb. It shouldn't be like this.
It shouldn't be like this. That's funny. All right. I think those are our stories for the week. And we've got, that's the last one. We've got some command line tips to talk about. We've got some fun ones to talk about. We're going to come back to some things we talked about last week. And I've got some pizzazz I'm going to show off. But we're actually going to let Rob take the first command line tip right after this.
All right, everybody. This week's tip for me is a command line tip. The application I'm using is called CSVI, and it is a command line tool to view and edit CSV files. You do need to install the Golang tool. So in Ubuntu, I did a sudo apt install Golang before I followed the steps on the GitHub page to install this. So for those watching, so this is at github.com/HYMKOR/CSVI. So for those watching, I made a test CSV file just to play around with. So I'm going to type CSVI space test.csv. So I'm going to do that, and this is just some demo junk stuff, not real data. In fact, I had ChatGPT make me some data. So with this, I can move around. You can use arrows or HJKL. So it's supposed to be like vi, so that's why it's CSV, and then I, so VI is at the end. So it has a lot of vi or vim like commands. So I'm using the HJKL to navigate around the cells, because I'm not sure if I found a bug, but when I navigate around with the arrows, every once in a while when I push the back arrow, it was deleting the whole line. So I'm going to dig into that and maybe submit a bug for that if I figure out because I don't know why it was doing that for me. So if you use this right now, use the HJKL to navigate around. So you can use things like DD if you want to delete a line. And I just deleted the 1007 line. Now, if I want to insert a line, you do the capital O, so Shift O, and it's going to insert a line. So I'll put the 107 back in there, hit Enter. And now I want to append a cell. So A will append a cell. And John, Enter. A, Doe, Enter. A, New Ulm, Enter. A1, Enter. So there are a lot more keyboard shortcuts. If you're moving around, I made a mistake. That wasn't supposed to be 1, let's say. Let's say that was supposed to be something else. I press R to replace it. And let's make that, I meant to have 12, Enter. And there are a lot more commands. So if it's something, keyboard key bindings, I guess there are a lot more key bindings. If it's something you're interested in, find the project on GitHub, look at our show notes, click on the link, install it, and check it out.
All right. Very, very cool. I like it a lot. All right. In fact, I was talking before the show, I've got some CSV data that someone's going to be giving me here shortly, and I might use this to look at it. It seems very useful. All right, Ken, you did a good job in not playing with your command line tip during the show, at least not very much. I imagine you're about to make up for that. What do you have for us?
Well, this week, my command line tip is the command espeak-ng. It's a multilingual software-based text-to-speech editor. Let me go ahead and bring up my screen here so y'all can see it. Is that big enough for everybody to read?
That's not too bad, yeah.
Okay. And as I said, it's espeak-ng. From the command line, you can type --help, and that will give you all this information about what you can use to do it, how you can adjust the amplitude, have it go to a specified device for the audio, change the word gap or the pause between words, have it indicate capital letters either with a sound, the word capitals, or change its pitch, set the line length, adjust the pitch for the voice, and set the speed in approximate words. The default is 175. I'm finding that a bit fast myself. In fact, let me go ahead and give you a simple demonstration here.
Linux Fund.
That's using a English voice with a Swedish accent. I've also got some others here. And the way I'm got it set up, if you'll look at the command line tip there, it's got a -D, and I've got it going to my alsa_output.usb-bur-brown from TIUSB audio codec analog stereo output. So that's actually getting the audio. And then I'm taking the monitor for that and piping it in. So it's going in alongside my mic output to Firefox. And here we'll demonstrate with a different...
Hello world. espeak-ng is a command line tool for Linux that converts text to speech. This is a compact speech synthesizer that provides support to English and many other languages.
Fun.
And you can change the speed that it talks at by changing that the number of words per minute. I'm going to change that to 125, not 1,250. Let's change the pitch down just a little, see how that affects it. And if that's, Jonathan, is it too loud? Should I turn the amplitude down?
That seemed about right. Maybe a tiny bit down, if you want the excuse to go play with that setting.
But there we go. And I'm going to change it to USB 2. Now, if you'll notice, this particular voice says MB/MB-US2.
Hello world. espeak-ng is a command line tool for Linux that converts text to speech. This is a compact speech synthesizer that provides support to English and many other languages.
But if you want to see all the voices, you can do espeak-ng voices. And there's all the voices and languages that it provides. I can also narrow that down by saying equals EN for English language. And there's all the different voices there. Some of them are the MB or umbrella, using that format. So, but it's a great tool to play with. I've actually got one of the scripts that I use on a daily basis actually comes up saying load, and the name of that function that I run.
Yeah, so I'm just kind of thinking here, the current crop of AI tools really makes this one, espeak-ng, sort of show its age. I think someone in Discord was joking that it sounds like the way the things sounded back in the 80s. In fact, that was Rob that was joking about that.
Yep.
Do you know?
Reminds me of my Real Talk baseball handheld gaming system I had back then.
Yeah, I'm curious if the espeak-ng guys are like looking at adding some of these more sophisticated AI-based models, or if there is a sort of a next generation espeak-ng, the next generation.
Or you can use that AI to help with creating the language and the phonetics breakdown that you need.
Yeah,
the dictionaries to help to improve it.
What would they call that after the next generation? Would that be InSpeak Voyager?
That'd be 9 deep. I don't know.
Deep Speak 9.
Deep Speak 9. There we go.
Nice. All right, that's fun.
It's even got options so you can go in and compile voices.
Yeah, no, it's a cool tool set for sure, and I'm sure that there are some options out there to make it better. It's just in our current realm of AI overlords. It's beginning to sound sort of dated. All right, so something we talked about last week was the death of screensavers, and I am back this week to let you know that their death was exaggerated. So let's see. Here we go. I'm sharing my screen. So this isn't KDE, right? This is KDE 6.6. I think it's either 6.5 or 6.6. I believe it's 6.6. And there is some news to share. And the way you get to it is really weird, but it is in here. So to set up your screensavers in KDE, you start with your wallpaper. You may actually want to start by installing a program called xwayland-run, which lets you run lets you run X11 programs inside of Wayland from the command line. That one's reasonably important. And then you go to your wallpaper settings. In KDE, there's an option here. It's called Get New Plugins. And this is where you get to look at the wallpaper plugins that exist inside of KDE that various people have compiled. There are some really interesting ones here. One that I was just playing with is the shader wallpaper. City Grow, there's Game of Life. I've not looked at Rain. It could be interesting too. Live Snow. The Matrix code, looky there. But there's one in particular that I have found that is super useful for this, and it's called Application Wallpaper. See if I can get it to come up here in this list. It is here. Application Wallpaper. I do think I already have it installed. Actually, I installed it manually instead of through this list. But this lets you run any application as your wallpaper. So just as an example here, let's say we want to use the Matrix Rain wallpaper as, again, our wallpaper. Let's hit apply and see what happens. Well, you can see I now have a dynamic background to my computer, which is super cool. And there are a bunch of options here. If you really want to go crazy inside of shader, there's one here, E1M1. Of course, it doesn't want to work. I had some problems with shader. It didn't want to work. Let's see if I can get it to go. Nope, it doesn't want to play it. It worked earlier. I'm not sure why it's not now. Anyway, multiple options. This is all worth playing with. But then you can go to your main KDE configuration here and go down to screen locking. And there is a button here that is almost hidden, and it's configure appearance. And then you can go in here and pick the wallpaper for your screen locker. And then all of those that we just installed as live desktop backgrounds, we can also install as screen locker wallpapers. And then you can also go and say, show the clock only on the unlocking prompt. And so once you do this, you once again have a screensaver. Now, I'm not sure what's going to happen when I hit this, but we're going to try to lock and let you take a look at it. Can you guys see the Starfield whipping by?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I
Getting
have
busy.
indeed. I will punch my password in on the other screen. That way you can't even see how many characters it is because I'm security conscious. Anyway, so that is how under KDE at least you can get back to having a screensaver. And I've been playing around with that on this computer, on the desktop behind me, and I've been having a lot of fun with it. You can also do the
On your wife's computer?
Not yet, but I bet now that I've done the walkthrough on how to do it, she's probably going to set it up because she was telling me last week, just after we finished the show, she goes, I too miss screensavers. So
that was a good show.
It was a good show. One of the other fun things about this, I've got some possible commands that you can run. It is actually possible to run wine and therefore run a .scr as your lock screen wallpaper. So if you really want to, you can go pull classic Windows screensavers and use them via wine.
Do I have any from Windows 95?
Well, there's a couple of websites out there that appear to be reputable that you can go download them from. Yeah, so I spent some time with that too. Now, I did run into an issue. It's probably something you can work around, but I ran out of time to figure out what was causing it. Wine would not run a screensaver on two monitors at once. It would work properly on one monitor and then put an error message on the other one. So something, and I know that the way this is working is when you lock your computer and it shows that screensaver, that wallpaper, it is a separate process for each screen. And so something about asking Wine to start the same thing twice in two separate processes, it doesn't like. I'm not sure exactly why. There's probably some way to work around that. But yeah, screensavers are back on the menu. I was excited. I thought it was pretty cool. Guys will have to send us in screenshots of your screensavers under Linux between now and next show. That'd be fun. I want to see what people come up with because there's some great old school screensavers out there. All right. Well, that is the show, and it has been it's been a blast. It's been a lot of fun. I appreciate everybody being here. Thank you to Rob and to Ken for being here. I will let each of the guys plug whatever they want to, get in the last word on something. We'll go from left to right on your radio dial. That means that Rob gets to go first. What do you have for us to close the show, Rob?
Did you have to bring up our names before you said them? You're slowly saying the names, and then the names popped up below us, and then you're able to finish. I feel like you had to think about that.
I was trying. My mouth was trying to say Jeff, and I knew Jeff was not here.
All right. Well, A listener of ours did send in a poem for me to do, but graciously, I am giving that one to Jeff, or I am letting Jeff take it. We did talk about this poem earlier in the week. Jeff really wanted to do it, so I will save that for him for next week. But thank you for sending that poem to me. And additionally, if anyone else has anything, they want to send a poem for Jeff or something for me to share or whatever, contact us on social media or whatever. And how you can do that is you can find me at robertpcampbell.com. And on that page near the top, there's a links, little buttons to my LinkedIn, Twitter, Blue Sky, Mastodon. And if you really want to give me a special message, you can put that right here in the little coffee cup. You just click that, donate a coffee to me, and put a little message in there. It can be anonymous or it can be for the world to see.
Very good. All right. And Ken, what do you have to close the show with?
Well, as y'all can see, I've kind of reached back down into my bag of command line tips to pull this one, the one I gave out tonight, out because we've actually covered, I'm going to say, at least 1,000 different command line tips since we started doing the Untitled Linux Show. All the way, hard to believe it was back in May 21 we started.
Goodness.
So the others may not need help, but if y'all have got any suggestions on command line tips we can cover, I'm asking for input to help with coming up with new ones every week.
Yep, there you go. Would definitely be useful. All right. Thank you guys again for being here. If you want to find more of me, there is also Floss Weekly over on Hackaday, and we appreciate that. You also, let's see, you can come check out Mishtastic. I guess that's the other thing I have to plug right now. But other than that, I want to say thank you to everyone that's here, whether you watch or listen, whether you get us live or on the download. We sure appreciate it. And we'll be back next week. We'll see you then for the Untitled Linux Show.